Does it show a lack of faith on my part to ask others for money so that I can launch as a missionary? Is there any sort of balance between asking others and faith in God? It's an important topic, and that's what we're talking about today. So one of the things that can happen is when you are around missionaries or you hear mission reports, whatever kind of missionaries you're listening to or being around or reading about or whatever, that sort of becomes who you think a missionary is, as in the type of missionary they are or how they do certain things, like that's the way you have to do it too. But that's not reality. So for instance, there's people like in the past, like George Mueller, who made a commitment to God that he would not ask anybody for money at all. And God provided, tons and tons of money. And he had like tons of orphans and just massive what all he was involved with and did. And God really blessed him. But there's other people who don't work that way. They fundraise. They actively, ask people to donate and stuff like that. And God blesses them too. There are some people who they won't do anything until they have all the money before starting, like a building project or something like that. And there's other people who, okay, we've got $20 and we need $100,000, so let's start. There's a whole lot of different ways of thinking of it. The most important thing really is, has God given you a conviction on this subject? If God convicts you, you are not to ask people for money. Just depend on me. If God tells you that, then you have no business asking people for money. But if he tells you, no, I need you to fundraise, you need to, ask people to donate, well then you better do that. And I think part of the reason that God leads people differently in this area is for their own individual needs. For instance, some people might really, really need in their walk with God to really strengthen that faith and that trust that God is going to take care of them. We have promises. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. Take no thought, for your life, your clothing, your food, all of that stuff. God's going to take care of you. So there's some people who just really need to develop that trust in that way. But there's maybe other people that it can become like a pride thing. And here, I'll tell you what happened with me. So when I first went overseas, I had this thought that I needed to not ask for money. And I don't regret that. There was the opportunity, the need, the call for me specifically to go. And so I just told the Lord, I was working on getting my passport. And I said, if you want me to go, provide the money, and I'll go. And he provided the money, way more than I needed. And so I went. And since then, I've kind of made it a practice to not really tell people what specific number needs I had. There have been times where God has overruled that and stuff's come flying out of my mouth that I wasn't planning on. And that's just the way God works. When I joined the ministry that I'm working with now, I didn't know, I was joining as a volunteer. I didn't know that they gave stipends to volunteers. And so I wasn't expecting anything like that. And I got there and they said, well, if you'd like, we can give you a small stipend. And my thought was, well, I wasn't expecting it and I'd rather not. And so for a couple of years, I didn't receive anything from the ministry. And I got to the point where I had some small debt that I really needed to pay off. And I realized that they were willing to give me a stipend, but my pride wasn't willing to. There was something about this, I need to not receive anything or, ask for money or anything like that. And it was a pride thing of, I have faith or something like that, which obviously that's not faith. And so I realized, oh, okay, so I need to, ask for a stipend. And so I did, and that was what I needed. And it was kind of interesting because later I was having a conversation with Hannah, she was my girlfriend at the time, talking about this subject and how I almost was like wondering if I was doing the right thing by still having a stipend and stuff like that. And she's like, what she told me I really appreciated, and that was, you know, God doesn't call everyone to do that. Maybe he needs, for where you're at, maybe he needs you to have a stipend for some reason that you don't understand. I was like, yeah, you know, it really is trusting God. I don't know, you know, maybe for me, God needed me to have a stipend, and for others, definitely not. So it's an individual case, it's an individual decision, and it's between you and God how that all works for you. What I will say is that God has a cattle on 1,000 hills, and he hasn't forgotten that. So there's no need to stress about money. Leave it in his hands, and even if he does ask you to, you know, fundraise or whatever, it's not your job to try and extract money out of people. That's his job. Basically, when you're fundraising, you're just giving them the opportunity to join in God's work, and he will impress hearts of those to donate. So it's not like we need to try and like twist people's arm and convince them to donate. It's God's work. It's his money. It's him. It's not us. The water here is super hard, and like if you're familiar with grains per gallon as a measure of hardness, like above 10 or 10 and a half or something is supposed to be like very, very hard water. Ours is 21, so it's pretty hard. And so we wanted to try and soften it, and we went to a store and they showed us a softener that was like $2,000, and no, that's no-go. So we rigged up that, and it seems to be working. So we're very thankful to do something that will help. That's much, much cheaper. And before we go, I just want to ask you a quick question, and that is, what's been your favorite video from this last week of the first week of our September challenge? We're uploading every single day. Really curious what your favorite video was from this last week. That's all for today. Hope to see you down in the comments, and we'll see you next time. God bless.